The Arizona sun beat down on the manicured lawns of Serenity Springs Estates, a subdivision where conformity was king and the grass was always precisely 2.5 inches tall, thanks to the iron fist of the Homeowners Association. 15-year-old Maya Lee, however, had introduced a splash of futuristic rebellion onto their perfectly clipped front lawn. It wasn't graffiti or a rebellious gnome. It was a sleek, 6-foot hydroponic tower, humming softly, its integrated LEDs casting a gentle, shifting purple and blue glow across the Bermuda grass as dusk approached. Inside its vertical columns, lettuce, kale, and herbs grew rapidly, destined not for the Lee family table alone, but for elderly neighbors like Mrs. Gable next door, whose arthritis made gardening impossible, and Mr. Henderson down the street, living on a fixed income. Maya adjusted a nutrient flow valve, her brow furrowed in concentration. She'd built the system from kits and custom 3D printed parts, a project born from her robotics club passion and a genuine desire to help. The crisp, fresh greens were a hit, especially with the older residents who appreciated the free, healthy food delivered with a smile. Her father, Gabriel Lee, watched from the porch, a quiet pride in his eyes. He was home on a rare extended leave, the arid Arizona landscape a stark contrast to the classified global hotspots his job usually took him to. He saw the tower not just as a technical achievement, but as a reflection of Maya's generous spirit. This idyllic scene, however, was a direct affront to Cornelia Springs, the self-appointed queen of Serenity Springs and president of its HOA. Cornelia, a woman whose tightly permed blonde hair seemed perpetually braced for battle and whose voice could curdle milk at 20 paces, saw Maya's tower as anarchy blooming in her tightly controlled domain. She lived 2 houses down, her own lawn an unervingly perfect carpet of green, her windows like suspicious eyes constantly scanning the neighborhood for infractions. Cornelia's beige sedan crunched to a halt precisely at the Lee family's curb. The car door opened with a snap, and she emerged, clipboard already in hand, her face set in a mask of righteous indignation. "Gabriel, Sarah," she called out, ignoring Maya completely, her voice carrying across the quiet street. "We need to discuss this structure." Gabriel met her halfway up the driveway, his wife Sarah joining him from the house, wiping her hands on an apron. "Cornelia," Gabriel greeted her, his tone calm but firm. "Something we can help you with?" "This eyesore," Cornelia declared, gesturing dismissively at the glowing tower. "It violates Section 12, Paragraph 4 of the Serenity Springs Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions. Agricultural activities and vertical farming structures visible from the street are strictly prohibited." She tapped the clipboard with a perfectly manicured nail. "It's an unapproved modification. And frankly, it lowers the aesthetic value of the entire neighborhood." "It's a hydroponic garden, Cornelia," Sarah said patiently. "Maya built it. It's providing fresh vegetables for some of the older folks." "That's irrelevant," Cornelia snapped. "Rules are rules. It's unsightly. That blinking light is a nuisance." "It doesn't blink, Mrs. Springs," Maya interjected quietly, stepping forward. "The LEDs shift spectrum to optimize growth. And it's almost silent." Cornelia shot Maya a look sharp enough to cut glass. "Young lady, when the adults are talking, you will remain silent. This isn't just about aesthetics. It's about order. It's about protecting our property values. If we allow one unapproved structure, where does it end? Chickens? Goats?" Gabriel's jaw tightened slightly. He'd faced down armed insurgents with more composure than Cornelia Springs. "It's a contained unit, Cornelia. It's clean, efficient, and it's helping people. Perhaps the HOA could consider an amendment for small-scale personal food production, given the benefits." "An amendment?" Cornelia laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "The rules exist for a reason, Gabriel. To maintain standards. This contraption is a violation. You have 48 hours to remove it. Failure to comply will result in daily fines, starting at $100 and escalating." She thrust a violation notice into Gabriel's hand. "Consider this your official warning." Without waiting for a response, she turned, marched back to her car, and drove off, leaving a palpable tension in the air. "Can she do that, Dad?" Maya asked, looking crestfallen. Gabriel looked at the notice, then at the tower, its gentle light now seeming defiant in the twilight. Technically, according to the HOA rules she cited, maybe. But it's unreasonable. Unreasonable is her middle name, Sarah sighed. What are we going to do? We're not taking it down, Gabriel said firmly. Not yet. Let's see the fine schedule. Let's appeal. There has to be a process. But Cornelia wasn't interested in process. She was interested in compliance. The fines started arriving promptly, each notice more strident than the last. $100 became $200, then $500. Cornelia seemed to take a personal delight in delivering them, often adding verbal warnings about potential liens on their property. The Lees filed an appeal, presenting testimonials from the neighbors. Maya was helping, highlighting the project's community benefits and minimal impact. The HOA board meeting, held in the community clubhouse, was Cornelia's stage. She presided with an air of absolute authority, dismissing the Lees' appeal out of hand. Emotional arguments hold no weight against clearly written bylaws, she announced, banging her gavel. The structure must be removed. The fines stand. Failure to comply will result in further action. Her gaze swept the room, daring anyone to disagree. A few residents shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke out against her. Fear of Cornelia's vindictive enforcement of petty rules kept most silent. The local news, however, caught wind of the story. A reporter, tipped off by a sympathetic neighbor, ran a piece on Maya's innovative project and the draconian response from the HOA. The segment painted Maya as a bright, community-minded teen and Cornelia as an out-of-touch tyrant. Photos of Mrs. Gable gratefully accepting fresh lettuce contrasted sharply with Cornelia's scowling image. The story went viral locally. Suddenly, Serenity Springs wasn't just serene, it was infamous. This public exposure pushed Cornelia over the edge. It wasn't just about the rules anymore. It was about her authority being challenged, her carefully controlled world exposed to ridicule. She saw Maya's tower not just as an illegal structure, but as the source of her public humiliation. Late one night, fueled by resentment and cheap Chardonnay, staring at the gentle glow of the tower from her window, a dark thought took root. The fines weren't working. The public shaming had backfired. The nuisance needed to disappear. Permanently. Cornelia wasn't stupid. She knew she couldn't just tear the tower down herself. But she had connections, or rather, she knew people who knew people. Her cousin Vinny ran a shady auto repair shop on the outskirts of Phoenix, a place known more for what happened in the back rooms than under the hoods. Vinny owed her a favor, a big one, from years ago when she'd provided an alibi that kept him out of serious trouble. She called him. Vinny? It's Cornelia. I have a problem. A neighborhood pest. No, not raccoons. A teenager. She explained the situation, her voice low and conspiratorial. I need this situation handled. Made to go away. Quietly. Vinny, initially dismissive, listened as Cornelia's desperation and the implied value of the favor she was calling in became clear. Handle it how, Corny? You want me to rough up a kid? No. Cornelia hissed, horrified at the crudeness but not the intent. I just need her gone. Out of the picture. For a while. Long enough for this whole thing to blow over. For the tower to be removed without fuss. Vinny was silent for a moment. He dealt with stolen parts and chopped cars, not people. But he knew crews who were less scrupulous, crews who operated further south, near the border. They moved things, sometimes cargo, sometimes people. He thought of the Desert Jackals, a ruthless smuggling outfit known for their speed and discretion, run by a shadowy figure known only as El Alacrán, the Scorpion. They owed Vinny for keeping some of their modified vehicles running. Look, Corny, Vinny said slowly. This ain't simple. Making someone disappear, that costs. A lot. And it's risky. These ain't Boy Scouts. How much? Cornelia asked, her voice tight. Vinny named a figure that made Cornelia's breath catch. It was a substantial chunk of her savings, money meticulously hoarded from HOA dues and shrewd investments. But the humiliation, the defiance represented by that glowing tower and the girl who built it, it felt worth it. Fine, she whispered. Just make it happen. Make the nuisance vanish. No trail back to me. Wire the funds to this account, Vinny instructed, giving her untraceable routing numbers. Give me the kid's schedule, description, usual haunts. My guys will handle the rest. You don't know nothing, understand? Understood. Cornelia breathed, a tremor running through her. She sent Vinny the details. Maya Lee, 15, dark hair, Usually wears glasses, attends Ocotillo High Robotics Club after school on Wednesdays until 5 p.m., walks the half-mile home. The following Wednesday felt unnervingly normal. Maya texted her dad from the robotics lab, excited about a breakthrough in coding their competition bot. "Almost done, Dad. See you soon." Gabriel smiled. He was working remotely, reviewing personnel files, the mundane task a welcome break from the tension with Cornelia. At 5:05 p.m., Maya packed her bag, waved goodbye to her friends, and started her walk home. The afternoon sun was beginning to dip, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. She put in her earbuds, listening to a science podcast. As she turned onto the quieter residential street leading towards Serenity Springs, a nondescript gray van, the kind used by contractors, pulled up alongside her. Before she could react, the side door slid open. Two men, faces obscured by baseball caps and surgical masks, jumped out. One clamped a hand over her mouth, the other grabbed her arms. She struggled, kicking back, her backpack falling to the pavement, but they were too strong. They bundled her into the van. The door slammed shut, and the vehicle sped away, tires squealing faintly as it turned the corner. A neighbor watering his roses saw the van speed off, but thought little of it until he noticed the fallen backpack moments later. Inside the dark van, Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Panic surged, cold and metallic. Her mouth was dry, her hands roughly bound behind her back with zip ties. "Who are you? What do you want?" she managed to mumble against the hand still clamped over her mouth. "Quiet, Nina." One of the men grunted, his voice muffled. He pushed her down onto the floor. The van smelled stale, like cigarettes and gasoline. They were heading south, away from the city, picking up speed on the highway. Maya squeezed her eyes shut, trying to think. Her dad. She had to reach her dad. Her phone was in her pocket, but her hands were tied. She tried to wriggle, to somehow reach it, but the man beside her roughly pushed her shoulder. "Stay still." Back at the Lee house, 5:30 p.m. came and went. Gabriel started to feel a prickle of unease. Maya was usually punctual. He called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. Sarah came into his home office. "Maya's not back yet." "No," Gabriel said, the calmness in his voice belying the sudden knot in his stomach. "Her phone's off or out of range." He stood up, grabbing his keys. "I'll drive her route." Maybe the club ran late. But as he pulled out of the driveway, his phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Lee? This is Dave Peterson, down the street. I found Maya's backpack on the corner of Acacia and 3rd. Looked like she just dropped it. Thought you should know." Ice water sluiced through Gabriel's veins. "Drop backpack. Phone off. Late." His training kicked in, years of threat assessment and crisis response overriding parental panic. "Dave, did you see anything? Anyone?" "Well," Dave hesitated. "There was a gray van, kind of beat up. Sped off right around the time she would have been walking past. Didn't think much of it till I saw the bag. Gray van. Sped off. Maya missing. It wasn't random. It was an abduction." Gabriel's mind raced. Who? Why? The HOA dispute seemed petty, suburban drama. But Cornelia, her escalating anger, her fury at the public humiliation, could she be capable of this? It seemed insane, but the timing was too coincidental. He forced the thought down. Speculation wouldn't help Maya. Action would. "Sarah," he said, his voice tight with forced calm as he returned home. "Call 911. Report Maya missing. Tell them about the backpack, the gray van. Mention the HOA dispute, Cornelia Springs. I have to make another call." He went back into his office and closed the door. He picked up a secure satellite phone he kept locked away, a direct line to his unit. He dialed a number known only to a select few. "Watchdog, this is Archangel. Stand by for mission priority Sirocco." Sirocco was the code for a personnel recovery operation involving a unit member or their family. The voice on the other end was instantly alert, all business. "Archangel, Watchdog copies. Stand by." Within seconds, the secure line connected him to the Tactical Operations Center at Fort Bragg. "Archangel, Valkyrie Actual. Go ahead." Valkyrie Actual was Colonel Davies, his immediate superior and friend. "Valkyrie, Archangel. My daughter, Maya Lee, 15, abducted approximately 30 minutes ago, vicinity Phoenix, Arizona. Possible connection to a local civilian dispute, but perpetrator profile unknown. Last known location derived from eyewitness seeing her backpack. Requesting immediate ISR support and initiating Operation Sirocco protocols. I have her phone's IMEI. Need immediate ping and track. Copy that, Archangel. Sirocco is active. Sending IMEI to Langley now. Satellite assets are being retasked. Stand by for overhead feed. What's your status? Boots on the ground, local vicinity. Awaiting initial track. Requesting immediate deployment of nearest HRT Quick Reaction Force. I have a 3-man recce team on standby. Leave with me here in Arizona. Request authorization to activate. Authorization granted, Archangel. Activate your local element. QRF is wheels up from Nellis and 20. We'll get you eyes on as soon as that phone pings. Stay safe, Gabe. Bring her home. Roger that, Valkyrie. Archangel out. Gabriel hung up and made 2 more quick calls. Activating Sergeant Major Mac Connolly and Master Sergeant Rico Diaz, his most trusted operators, who were enjoying their downtime nearby. Mac, Rico. Sirocco. My house now? Bring your go bags. The response was immediate. On my way, boss. Roger that, Colonel. While Sarah spoke frantically with the local police dispatcher, Gabriel pulled up satellite mapping software on his encrypted laptop. Within minutes, Mac and Rico arrived, grim-faced, duffel bags slung over their shoulders. They needed no explanation beyond the single code word. They were Delta Force. Recovering hostages was what they did. Phone just pinged, Gabriel announced, pointing at the screen. A red dot appeared, moving steadily south on I-10, heading towards the Mexican border. Single vehicle, gray van matches witness description. Moving fast. Estimated speed 90 miles per hour. Desert Jackal's territory. Mac grunted, recognizing the route often used by smugglers. Think they're heading for the border? Possibly, Gabriel said. Or an intermediary drop-off. Langley's getting us overhead imagery now. The screen flickered, replaced by a grainy, top-down infrared view from a drone or satellite. The gray van stood out, a hot white shape against the cooler asphalt. There they are. Looks like 2 heat signatures in the front, 1 or 2 indeterminate in the back. Maya. Could be, Rico said, checking the loadout in his bag. Suppressed firearms, breaching tools, advanced comms, medical kit. Local PD engaging? Not yet, Gabriel said. Too fast. Jurisdiction issues likely as they approach the state line or reservation land. Valkyrie wants us to handle primary intercept, if possible. QRF from Nellis is still 20 minutes out. We move now. They piled into Gabriel's unassuming but modified SUV, its civilian appearance hiding reinforced plating and a powerful engine. Rico monitored the satellite feed on a ruggedized tablet, calling out directions and the van's speed. Mac drove, navigating traffic with practiced ease, pushing the SUV to its limits. Gabriel sat in the passenger seat, coordinating via secure comms, his face a mask of controlled intensity. Every mile the van covered felt like a physical blow. Inside the van, Maya fought to stay calm. She focused on her breathing, remembering techniques her dad had taught her, not for kidnapping, but for stressful situations, like before robotics competitions. She strained her ears, listening to the muffled conversation from the front. Spanish. Fast clipped. They mentioned El Alacran and La Entrega, the delivery. They were taking her somewhere, to someone. She tested the zip ties again, subtly, trying to find any give. Nothing. Then she remembered her smartwatch. It was still on her wrist, hidden beneath her sleeve. Could she activate the emergency SOS? It linked to her dad's phone. She needed to get her hands in front of her. Feigning nausea from the bumpy ride, she groaned and leaned forward. Agua, she whispered, pretending to be faint. The man beside her grumbled but nudged his partner, who passed back a half-empty water bottle. As the man awkwardly held it to her lips, Maya used the momentary distraction to twist her wrists, trying desperately to maneuver her bound hands towards her front. The angle was wrong, the ties too tight. It was no use. She slumped back, despair washing over her. Target is exiting the highway, Rico reported from the back seat of the SUV, heading west onto Route 86, towards the Tejano-Awadam Reservation. Definitely border-run territory. Any structures nearby? Gabriel asked, zooming in on the satellite map. Negative, Rico replied. Miles of open desert. Wait, picking up something. Looks like an old airstrip. Dirt runway, dilapidated hangar. About 5 clicks from their current position. That's the handover point, Gabriel deduced. They won't risk crossing the border themselves. They'll pass her off to another crew there. We intercept before they reach it. Mac glanced at Gabriel. Ground assault. Too risky for Maya, Gabriel decided. They see us coming, they might panic. We need surprise. Is the QRF Hello available for insertion? He relayed the question over comms. Valkyrie confirms. The comms officer replied instantly. Night Stalker MH, 6 Little Bird inbound. ETA 6 minutes. Can insert your 3-man element via fast rope directly onto the target vehicle's path. Do it, Gabriel commanded. Mac, find us an intercept point just before that airstrip, somewhere we can block the road after the insertion. The MH-6, a small, agile helicopter painted matte black, appeared as a silent speck in the darkening sky, flying nap of the earth to avoid detection. It matched the van's speed, hovering impossibly low over the desert scrub alongside the desolate 2-lane road. Insertion point 1 click ahead, Rico confirmed, watching the feed. Deserted stretch. Little Bird moving into position. Inside the van, Maya heard a faint, unusual whirring sound, barely audible over the engine noise. It grew louder, closer. The driver glanced nervously at his mirrors. KESSO. Suddenly, the helicopter swooped directly over the van. 3 figures rappelled down ropes with blinding speed, landing silently on the asphalt just ahead. Max slammed on the brakes, skidding the SUV to block the road behind them. The van driver swore, slamming on his brakes, fishtailing wildly. Gabriel, Mac, and Rico, now clad in tactical gear, moved with fluid precision. Rico deployed a flashbang that detonated with a blinding white light and deafening crack, disorienting the occupants. Gabriel and Mac flanked the vehicle, weapons raised. Get out. Hands up. Now, Gabriel shouted, his voice amplified by command presence, leaving no room for argument. Dazed and blinking, the 2 men in the front stumbled out, hands raised high. Mac quickly secured them with zip ties. Gabriel ripped open the van's side door. Maya looked up, shielding her eyes, seeing the familiar, determined face of her father silhouetted against the flashing emergency lights of their SUV. Dad. Relief washed over her in a dizzying wave. Gabriel cut her bonds with a tactical knife, pulling her into a fierce hug. You okay, Maya? Are you hurt? Scared, she choked out, clinging to him. But okay. They didn't hurt me. Rico checked the van. Clear. Just the 2 smugglers. He pulled out a small camera and began documenting the scene, including the faces of the captured men. Got him. Uploading to Valkyrie and local LE liaison now. Within minutes, state police cruisers and unmarked federal vehicles arrived, lights flashing, sirens silent. The scene was secured, the smugglers taken into custody. Gabriel briefed the lead FBI agent, explaining the Sirocco activation and the likely connection to the HOA dispute. Cornelia Springs? The agent raised an eyebrow. The HOA president? You think she hired these guys? The timing is too precise, Gabriel stated flatly. My daughter's project caused her public embarrassment. This happened right after. Check her financials. Check phone records between her and a man named Vinny, possibly runs an auto shop. He provided the details Cornelia had inadvertently revealed through her cousin. As Maya was checked over by paramedics in an ambulance, shaken but physically unharmed, Gabriel watched the captured smugglers being led away. His relief was immense, but cold fury simmered beneath it. Someone had targeted his child over lawn regulations. Back in Serenity Springs, Cornelia Springs paced her immaculate living room, glancing constantly at the clock. It was hours past when Vinny suggested the problem would be resolved. No news. Just silence. She tried calling Vinny, but the number went straight to a disconnected tone. Panic began to claw at her throat. What if something went wrong? What if they were caught? What if they talked? The flashing blue and red lights reflecting in her pristine windows made her jump. 2 police cars and a dark sedan pulled up outside her house. Uniformed officers and 2 serious-looking individuals in suits approached her door. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She smoothed her blouse, trying to appear calm, composed, the dignified HOA president. She opened the door. Officers, is there a problem? Cornelia Springs, one of the suits asked, flashing an FBI badge. We have a warrant for your arrest. Arrest? Cornelia stammered, her composure crumbling. For what? There must be some mistake. I haven't done anything. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Kidnapping-for-hire, the agent stated calmly. The individuals you hired to abduct Maya Lee were apprehended. They've provided detailed statements. He gestured towards the street. And we have financial records showing a significant payment routed through your cousin Vincent's associates, correlating precisely with the timing of the abduction. Cornelia's face went white. No, Vinny, those idiots. She looked past the agents, her eyes locking onto the Lee house down the street. The porch light was on. She could see figures moving inside. Maya was back. Her plan hadn't just failed, it had detonated in her face. You have the right to remain silent. The agent began, reciting the Miranda warning as officers gently but firmly handcuffed her. Neighbors peeked through blinds, witnessing the downfall of their neighborhood tyrant. The carefully constructed world of Cornelia Springs shattered around her. The flashing lights bathed her perfectly symmetrical topiaries in harsh strobes of red and blue as the FBI agents led her, handcuffed and stumbling, towards the waiting sedan. Her carefully constructed mask of indignant neighborhood authority had shattered, replaced by a pasty white fear and disbelief. You can't do this, she protested, her voice high-pitched, losing its usual commanding tone. I demand to speak to my lawyer. This is harassment. You'll have the opportunity to contact counsel once you're processed, ma'am, the lead agent replied evenly, guiding her into the back seat. The door closed with a solid thud, sealing her off from the neighborhood she had ruled with petty tyranny. Inside the car, the reality began to sink in. The men they caught. Vinny, they had talked. Her desperate, ill-conceived plan had not only failed, but had recoiled upon her with the full force of federal law enforcement. At the FBI field office in downtown Phoenix, Cornelia was photographed, fingerprinted, and placed in a sterile, windowless interrogation room. The arrogance flickered back briefly when Agent Sterling, the lead investigator, entered with a file. I am a respected member of my community, Cornelia began, trying to regain control. President of the Serenity Springs HOA. This is clearly a misunderstanding instigated by disgruntled residents. Agent Sterling didn't respond immediately. He simply opened the file, placing documents on the table between them. Financial statements highlighted with yellow marker, showing the large, untraceable wire transfer. Cell phone records detailing calls between her and Vinny's burner phone, coinciding exactly with the planning stages and the day of the abduction. Printouts of encrypted messages Vinny had foolishly kept. Ma'am, Sterling said, his voice calm but carrying undeniable weight. We have the wire transfer you initiated. We have phone logs. We have corroborated testimony from the two men apprehended with Maya Lee, detailing who hired them and why. And, he paused, leaning forward slightly. We have your cousin, Vincent Moretti, currently in another room, giving a full confession in exchange for a cooperation agreement. Cornelia stared at the papers, her eyes wide. Vinny. He had folded. The evidence wasn't circumstantial. It was a tightening noose. He's lying, she whispered, desperation creeping in. They're all lying to save themselves. That girl, she staged it. For attention. To discredit me. Ms. Springs, Sterling sighed. Maya Lee is 15 years old. The men we apprehended are affiliated with the Desert Jackal Cartel, known smugglers, not teenage pranksters. They described taking orders passed down from someone named El Alacran, who received the contract via your cousin Vinny. A contract paid for by this account. He tapped the financial statement. Your account. The motive? Retaliation for perceived humiliation over an HOA dispute regarding a hydroponic garden. Frankly, Ms. Springs, kidnapping a minor using cartel-affiliated criminals over lawn regulations. It's difficult for even seasoned investigators to comprehend the sheer malice and recklessness. Cornelia's composure finally broke. Tears streamed down her face, cutting paths through her foundation. Sobs racked her body. I just wanted it to stop, she choked out between gasps. The disrespect, the news reporters, that glowing thing on their lawn, mocking me. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I just wanted her gone for a little while. Make them take the tower down. Gone where, Miss Springs? Sterling pressed gently but firmly. Handed off to cartel smugglers in the middle of the desert? What did you think would happen next? Cornelia had no answer, only more tears. Her confession, fragmented and self-pitying, was nonetheless recorded. She admitted to contacting Vinny, wiring the money, and providing Maya's schedule, all while trying to minimize her intent, painting herself as a victim of circumstance and stress. It wouldn't hold up. Meanwhile, Vinny Moretti, facing his own conspiracy charges and the potential wrath of El Alacrán for the failed operation and captured operatives, sang like a canary. He detailed Cornelia's initial call, her escalating desperation, how he had outsourced the job to the Jackals through his contacts, and how he facilitated the payment. He expressed fear but little remorse, primarily focused on getting the best possible deal for himself. His testimony, backed by phone records and the smuggler's own statements, was damning for Cornelia. The two captured smugglers, low-level operatives named Chewy and Rafa, were less forthcoming initially, stonewalling investigators with practiced silence. However, facing federal kidnapping charges, potential state charges, and the prospect of decades in prison far from the border, their loyalty to the Jackals began to waver. The FBI offered them a stark choice: cooperate and potentially face slightly lesser sentences, while also providing intel on the Jackals' broader operations, or face the maximum penalty. Chewy, the driver, eventually broke, confirming Vinny's role as the middleman and describing the plan to take Maya to the abandoned airstrip for handover to another team destined for Mexico. Rafa remained sullen but didn't contradict his partner. Their testimony corroborated the entire chain of command, from Cornelia's initial order down to the roadside capture. Cornelia's request for bail was vehemently opposed by the prosecution and swiftly denied by the judge, citing the severity of the crime, kidnapping a minor, the use of dangerous criminals, the significant financial resources previously demonstrated, the payment to Vinny, and the potential flight risk. Given the international element involving the cartel, the judge deemed her both a danger to the community and unlikely to appear for trial if released. She was remanded in custody, swapping her pristine Serenity Springs home for a county jail cell. The arraignment was a brief, somber affair. Cornelia, appearing pale and drawn in ill-fitting jail clothes, stood before the judge as the charges were formally read: conspiracy to commit kidnapping, kidnapping of a minor, use of interstate facilities in commission of a crime for hire. Her court-appointed attorney entered a plea of not guilty, a standard procedural step, but the weight of the evidence hung heavy in the courtroom. Over the following weeks, the prosecution meticulously built its case. FBI cybercrime analysts traced the money flow from Cornelia's accounts through shell corporations Vinny used, ultimately linking to accounts known to be associated with the Desert Jackals. Witness statements were collected from the neighbor who saw the van, Maya Lee herself, a harrowing but clear account, Gabriel Lee, detailing the HOA conflict and the rescue timeline, and Mrs. Gable and other neighbors who benefited from Maya's tower, establishing the context of Cornelia's escalating animosity. Faced with the mountain of evidence, financial trails, multiple confessions, digital footprints, witness testimony, Cornelia's lawyers strongly advised her to accept a plea bargain. Going to trial would be disastrous, likely resulting in the maximum possible sentence upon conviction. The prosecution offered a deal: plead guilty to conspiracy to commit kidnapping and kidnapping for hire, and they would recommend a sentence at the lower end of the federal guidelines, potentially sparing her the harshest penalties associated with a trial conviction, though still guaranteeing significant prison time. Cornelia initially resisted, clinging to delusions of victimhood or some unforeseen legal loophole. "They tricked me," she insisted to her lawyer. "Vinny twisted my words. Those men misunderstood." But her lawyer patiently, repeatedly laid out the cold, hard facts and the near certainty of conviction at trial. Finally, facing the stark reality of potentially spending the rest of her life in prison, Cornelia reluctantly agreed to the plea. The sentencing hearing was packed. Members of the Serenity Springs community, reporters, and Gabriel and Sarah Lee, Maya chose not to attend, wanting to put it behind her, filled the gallery. Cornelia stood before the judge, reading a prepared statement filled with expressions of remorse that rang hollow, focusing more on the stress she was under than the terror she had inflicted. The judge listened impassively before delivering his sentence. "Ms. Springs," he began, his voice stern, Your actions demonstrate a profound and disturbing lack of judgment, empathy, and respect for the law. Driven by vanity and a petty neighborhood dispute, you employed dangerous criminals to abduct a child. You treated a teenage girl's life as disposable collateral in your quest for control. The potential consequences of your actions, had Lieutenant Colonel Lee and his team not intervened, are horrifying to contemplate. He acknowledged her guilty plea but emphasized the severity of the offense. This court must send a clear message that such behavior will not be tolerated. The sanctity of a child's safety and the rule of law far outweigh any perceived slight or HOA regulation. He sentenced Cornelia Springs to 15 years in federal prison, followed by a lengthy period of supervised release. There were gasps in the courtroom. It was a significant sentence, reflecting the gravity of the crime even with the plea deal. Furthermore, the judge addressed the financial aspect. Pursuant to federal statutes regarding asset forfeiture for crimes involving kidnapping for ransom or hire, the court orders the forfeiture of assets traceable to the proceeds of, or used to facilitate, the crime. This included the funds used to pay Vinnie and, crucially, significant portions of her savings and investments deemed connected or enabling the crime. Additionally, the judge continued, a substantial restitution order is imposed, payable to the victim, Maya Lee, and her family, for damages including trauma, emotional distress, and expenses incurred. The practical effect was the seizure of nearly all of Cornelia's liquid assets and investments. Her prized home in Serenity Springs, the symbol of her status and control, was ordered sold, with the proceeds going towards the restitution and fines. Cornelia, once the queen of her manicured kingdom, left the courtroom in handcuffs, stripped of her freedom, her reputation, her wealth, and the home she had valued above human decency. The wheels of justice, though sometimes slow, had ground exceedingly fine, delivering a punishment that was both severe and undeniably just. The Serenity Springs HOA, leaderless and tainted by scandal, was dissolved by a majority vote of the homeowners shortly thereafter, replaced by a far less intrusive management company. Maya's hydroponic tower, once a symbol of defiance, became a symbol of resilience. Inspired by the community support and the ordeal, the city council partnered with Maya, providing funding to expand her project. They established a small urban agriculture lab on a previously unused patch of community land, installing several towers based on Maya's design. It was affectionately nicknamed the Freedom Greens, providing fresh produce not just to the elderly, but to food banks and community kitchens. Maya stood beside her father, watching volunteers harvest lettuce under the vibrant glow of the new towers. The trauma of her abduction hadn't vanished, but it was overlaid with the satisfaction of seeing her idea flourish, of seeing community triumph over petty tyranny. Gabriel put an arm around her shoulder. "Proud of you, Maya." "Thanks, Dad," she smiled, leaning against him. "Couldn't have done it without you." She knew it meant more than just the hydroponics. He looked out at the thriving green towers, a stark, beautiful contrast to the desert landscape, a testament to ingenuity and the fierce, protective love that had brought her home. The battle for Serenity Springs was over, won not by rules and restrictions, but by resilience, community, and the quiet, unwavering capability of a father who happened to command Delta Force's hostage rescue unit. The neighborhood, free from Cornelia's reign, began to breathe easier, its lawns still neat, but its spirit significantly more vibrant.